Who are some of the biggest Pacers killers ever? They always seem to go off when they play Indiana. Jay Rigdon is going to join me to break that down today. And I thought I had a niche top pick, and we had the same answer. We'll tell you who it is right now on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I covered the team for Forbes, and today we're talking about Pacers killers, guys who go crazy against the Pacers. Some stars, some names you'd expect to hear over the years, and some niche names, especially from my time covering the team. I'm obviously much more locked into that experience. This is not really a history lesson. So if you have an answer from let's say, 2015, please let me know. I'd actually love to know more about guys that destroyed the Pacers for years prior to my time on the beat. But a ton of fun guys in here that many of you have been haunted by for years. They always seem to do well against the Pacers. And, of course, the stars. Who leads the NBA all-time in points per game against the Pacers? You might be able to guess, and you might not. And one former Pacer who shines, Jay Rigdon's idea from the season. I thought it was great. Let's just get right to it. Chewing through the list of topics people sent to me during the season, and I said, let's talk about it in the summer. Jay Rigdon is here because he said to me in April, March, sometime a long time ago, because he said, let's talk about Pacers killers in the offseason. And I said, that is a great idea. So many guys get this label because for some reason they always ball out against the Pacers. I have 7 guys. Jay has several, and I could keep going forever because I have a long list of players who had one special game against the Pacers. Jay, how are you? Are you enjoying NFL life? Are you ready for the NBA? This is an odd time, but awesome time in the sports calendar.
Yeah, I'm good, Tony. I'm excited. The Pacers just won Game 6 of the finals. Game 7 hasn't happened yet, so I've been, holding out. It's been a while. I'm getting excited. I'm nervous. I'm nervous. You don't see Game 7s very often, and I really can't wait to see how it goes against the Thunder. Game 6 was huge at home. Most fun I've ever had watching a basketball game. So I really can't wait for Game 7. I think it's going to be good.
I was talking with somebody who's like a fan who goes to lots of games, and we were joking about the finals run, and he said, it's a shame Game 7 got canceled. I was like, yeah, man, totally. Right. So bummer for you, Jay, after that Game 6 win. The 7th game is not happening. It's over. It's a 3-3 tie. Final series. No Pacers killers in the finals this year, unless you count the hellfire of Alex Caruso for that one game that got to 20 points or whatever. But there are many of these, and for a while I had like a classification of player type that always seemed to do well against the Pacers. It was the pre-Pascal Siakam, post-Thad Young era forwards, and there are lots of those that kind of fit this bill. But I'm actually curious, before I say my number one guy that I guarantee only 1 or 2 people listening remember the lore of this player. But is there, when you think of the term Pacers killer, is there a player that comes to your mind, and B, is it a star player? Because I do have some star players, but that is not the theme of what I want to go for today.
Yeah, no, it's not a star. I do have one that comes to mind. I was thinking about this, knowing we're going to do this podcast. For me, I think the definition is, I think it's someone who has to have had at least one big signature performance game. If you're like kind of out of nowhere, like this guy's killing us, really, like this kind of player. And then it helps if they also have a few more after that, where it's like, all right, him again, where you're kind of just terrified every time they get the ball or every time they have a shot late. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I do have one, though. Like, if you're ready for me to go for it, I can.
Yes, do it, please.
For me, like, platonic ideal Pacers killer is Terrence Ross.
Oh, my God, that's mine also. That is also mine. That's amazing.
Yeah. So we're probably looking at the exact same game. It's where I first started thinking about Terrence Ross. It was a game where he played for the Magic back then as part of his career. It was 2019. He scored 30 in January against the Pacers. And I remember watching that game and thinking, he's just not going to miss. He's just not going to miss a shot. Every time he had the ball, he was making everything. I feel like everything he wanted to do, he was getting to. They had no answers for him whatsoever.
That is outstanding. He is going to be on I already made it. The thumbnail for this podcast is a Terrence Ross picture. Oh, that is hilarious. I did not actually think you were going to get the guy that I had the same guy of. His last 6 games against the Pacers when he was with the Suns were poo-poo. So his final stats against the Pacers are not very good. But I wrote a story 5 years ago when the Fieldhouse was a blog thing we were doing about how his stats against the Pacers compared to every other team is like hilarious. He was averaging like 14 or 15 points a game against the Pacers, and his next highest was something like 12. He ended his career, his highest opponent was 13 against Phoenix, ironically, where he ended his career. And he was like destroying the Pacers every time. He had a game with Orlando in 2021 where he made 10 shots, 8 free throws on his way to 24 points. You have the one in 2019. Like every single year, there was a game, 2 games, 3 games where Terrence, and this wasn't even like the guys I just categorized earlier who play the 4. He had a 20-point game against them in 2020 in August in the bubble. Like this isn't even a category of player who's like, oh, they just don't have a guy who can guard him, or like he's just a tricky size, or like he can do this against other teams but doesn't like. For some reason, and he is retired, right? He's one of my only retired guys left. He just every year, once a year, here comes the Terrence Ross explosion against the Pacers. It made no sense. There was no like thematic reason this should keep happening, but it did happen. That is amazing. I cannot believe you got the same player.
Yeah, there was a stretch there where like this was like early in the onslaught of now like the scourge of sports gambling being legal, where like you can get Terrence Ross over against the Pacers was like an automatic for a few years. Like you couldn't go wrong really. Like it was, yeah. And he is the kind of guy, I think he really fits the mold where like he was never like an all-star type talent. He was never like, he was more like a journeyman kind of like bench wing guard type scorer. And somehow like, and the Pacers had guys that size who should be able to have guarded him. And it was just like, I don't know. It was the epitome of, he shows up and just you can't do anything against him. And that's just what it was going to be for a while.
So he had 29 against them in 2017 in April of that year. So he has 3 games against the Pacers where he made 10 shots in one game, just that I found since we've been talking. And I already had found the one beforehand. Like that's the kind of player that like when I think, because we'll talk about stars, like stars can do crazy stuff, right? And that doesn't mean they're not a killer of your team in some way, as 2 of the guys that we'll talk about are. But like when I think of X team killer, that's what I think of. It's just like the role player dudes that fans are like, oh, we got to deal with Terrence Ross crap. Like, that cracks me up. I think those are the guys that I like the best. And like, it's funny when I do podcasts with people who cover other teams who are like, oh, TJ McConnell always kills us. And I'm like, well, no, he does it to everybody. But Terrence Ross did not do it to everybody. He, for a while, only did it to the Pacers, and apparently the Suns and Thunder also, who finished at over 12 points a game, allowed to Terrence Ross. But yeah, a long list of just like, God, again, it's funny when you were talking, I was like, I wonder if he's actually going to say Terrence Ross. The other guy I thought you might say is DeMar DeRozan, who plays the same position and is kind of a star player, isn't really anymore, who for a while, not so much the last 2 years, it would either score 40 or hit a one-legged half-court shot or miss a free throw and get the rebound. It's like that. He also was just like, man, this guy I don't think is particularly awesome anymore, but the Pacers cannot stop him. And so I'm glad that you chose Terrence Ross and not DeMar DeRozan, ironically.
I'm glad too. I had DeMar on the list as well, for full disclosure. Like, especially like late stage DeMar with the Bulls. He had where he hit the baseline game winner a couple years ago. I didn't have the actual box score. Like,
and it's overtime, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yep, my bad. And so he's on those for sure. He was a little too good for to be the killer type for me, but he was very, very good. And it's and whenever guys have modes where it's like nothing you can do, you can put your best defender on them, they can play perfect defense and they're just going to hit the shot anyway. And it's just, I don't know, whenever it feels like a foregone conclusion that the ball is going in a big moment, like that's they very much qualified. So he was definitely on my list as well.
33 in a game 2 seasons ago. I don't remember what his high against the Pacers are going to be, but he had that buzzer beater from forever away on New Year's Eve. Yeah, 46 against them in that OT game last year, the one we're talking about where he hit the baseline shot. They fouled up 3 and everybody was like, oh, fouling up 3 stupid. And it just happened to not work. That was the worst day of my life because I hate when teams play the odds correctly and they still lose. But he was awesome. 46 points. Like that's beat the odds kind of stuff. And maybe I shouldn't have put a blanket over this Terrence Ross part of it, but I said that Terrence Ross is the type of player that didn't typically kill the Pacers. I guess DeMar's similar, just like a scoring guard who doesn't do a lot else. But DeMar is at least like awesome, right? It's a several-time All-Star, whereas Terrence Ross is that's the kind of niche that I like for this. And I have 2 more who fit into it. But do you have any more like non-star level players that you felt like always played well or have played well against the Pacers? And it's easier, by the way, I should say, sorry. It's really easy for me to do this for the last like 10 years in the NBA. Because that's more when I've been like really locked into what's happening with the Pacers. I'm sure there's tons from pre-2010 that I don't know about, and we'll bring up a few of them later, but those are the ones that I will know the best.
Yes, I was kind of keeping it more recent too. I know there are probably some old school type players, but yeah. So this one, I think the last one here that probably fits this category, that's maybe borderline star. Andre Drummond has had some insane games.
One of my players
against the Pacers. I found 3 right before we started here, so I pulled it up. So let me try to go in order. So I have one, November 13th, 2015. That started kind of the era of Andre Drummond just dominating Miles Turner on the glass. Like rookie Miles Turner came off the bench in that game for 15 minutes. He played again. So the next game I found for Andre Drummond, this would have been April 3rd, 2019. Pacers won again, 108-89. Since they're both Pacers wins for these games, but Drummond was just insane. He had 28 points, 19 rebounds in that one. He's just like throwing off these random games. And then again, October 23rd, 2019, Pistons win 119-110. So it was opening night 2019. So slightly out of order. But he had 32 points and 23 rebounds and 4 blocks and 3 steals en route to a Pistons win. And I just remember for forever, like his rebounding is this rare. They couldn't do anything with him. Like it was just, they couldn't stop it. He was getting every board. He was doing everything inside. He was hitting everything. He was so big. Like they really just had no answer for him whatsoever for years and years. And he was in the division with Detroit too. So you saw him more frequently. And yeah, he was, I do not want to see him anytime soon. I feel like he could come in now and probably get a double-double off the bench. His career averages, I know I'm just rambling about Andre Drummond here. His career averages against the Pacers, he averaged 13 points and 13 rebounds for a career. Like he's played 46 games against the Pacers, like almost half a season. That's, over the course of his entire span. And yeah, I'm glad he's almost done, if not done. I do not want to see Andre Drummond anymore.
Oh, I'll call it for him. He's done. Okay. He's still huge, but everybody, quick break to talk about 5-Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What many people love most is they're so portable. Big taste in a tiny little shot. You can take it anywhere you go. Get that boost whenever you need it. They have so many great flavors. Everybody's got a different favorite, but they're all refreshing. They'll give you that quick lift on a busy day. It's the perfect thing for you to try next for your caffeine kick, and it kicks in fast. It's sugar-free, so you don't have to worry about crashing later. Enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in-store and online at 5-Hour Energy with the number 5.com or on Amazon today. So Andre Drummond was really good. Like, he made all-star teams, right? But there was a time where I think Pacers fans really overrated him because he just kicked Miles Turner's ass every time, right? And that's not it's not unfair, right? Like, there are a couple guys who did that to Turner. Most of them were stars who did it to everybody, but he just absolutely mashed them every single time. Yeah, Drummond averaged 13 and 13 against the Pacers. He had 4 other teams he averaged more than 13 points against, and I believe 3 others he averaged 13 boards against. Only 2 teams did he hit the 13-13 threshold against besides the Pacers, and that's over 13, I should say, because he's close to it, the Lakers. That's Portland and Atlanta and the Pacers. And he played the Pacers almost 50 times. He might get to 50 by the end of his career. Yes, he was this is impressive. Good work. He is also on he was a star for a second, but like on my non-star list of just like, they cannot beat Andre Drummond, man. He had their number. He was I guess they beat him as a team, but like, they could not stop Andre Drummond. He just scooped up every board and scored a bunch of points. And he's unusual because it's more like he would score some, as you said, but it was just like he had 20 boards. Like, his rebounding. It's not even the stat you think of. It's not like like Elfrid Payton, no one thinks of as a Pacers killer, even though he had a 20 assist game against them. Like, it's very rare that it's a non-scoring stat, but Drummond was that awesome on the glass.
Yeah, it was. He's on the list. I think the other kind of signifier for this kind of player type is a guy who, like, you wouldn't mind your team acquiring just so they can't hurt you anymore. Like, yeah, let's just stash Terrence Ross and Andre Drummond on the bench for 2 years.
Perfect.
Even if they do nothing, like, that probably is still worth a few wins because you don't have to play against them. And so, like, I think he's definitely on that list for sure. His rebounding is insane. Like, they couldn't do anything with him. He would just go through the entire team. For a while, he always looked about like twice as big as some Pacers center, which is crazy. He's not, but it's just the size disparity. He was a player type the Pacers just did not have. Like, even when they had Sabonis, he still just didn't look as big. And he did. He just killed Miles Turner for years. Like, he had no answer. He couldn't stop him. He couldn't get past him. He couldn't move him for rebounds. Like, it was a big mismatch, and that's why he's on my list.
Okay, here's one that falls. I've 2 now that I want to go to, and they both kind of fall in the category of players we just said. One is the random role player who probably didn't actually dominate the Pacers to the extent it feels like he did in my head to me. But for this categorizes in the thing I said earlier of the destroyed the Pacers as a forward between Thad and Pascal Siakam. That's Harrison Barnes. Harrison Barnes, who's always been in the Western Conference, hasn't even played against the Pacers that much. 15 points a game against the Pacers. He's hit that against many other teams, but his efficiency, 62.5% true shooting, is the highest he has against any opponent except for the Washington Wizards on his way to those 15 points. And there were so many games in that time where he was like with Dallas or late era Golden State where they just had nobody who could guard that type of player. 30 points in the only game he played against the Pacers, for example, in the 2020-21 season. And that was when I was just like, that is what they need a forward for. Because they like, I don't care if if you're a team that can't stop LeBron, Durant, Siakam, Kawhi types, whatever, right? Those are stars. They're big forwards. They're going to score a bunch of points against lots of teams. But like the Pacers' size struggles or inability to have a 4 who was a 4, it was always a 5 or a small 3. It was just like they get lit up by, and another guy on my list I'll get to fits this category too. Like you get lit up by Harrison Barnes every time because you do not have an answer for him. And he had several games where it's just like, how are they this helpless against Harrison Barnes? He's good, but he shouldn't be killing him to this extent over and over again.
Yeah, that's a great one. I didn't have him written down since the first time we have it.
Finally, our first one.
You got me. Like he is, that he's in the Western Conference too. You see him so much less often. And you're right though. It is he did everything. Like basically, he could get whatever he wanted against a lot of those Pacers rosters that kind of like were the weird construction, like 3 guards, 2 centers era of Pacers basketball. Especially, yes. I feel like he did a lot of damage then because he was just occupying spaces on the floor that the Pacers couldn't stop. Like they couldn't get out to the corner and close out with any length at him. Like they couldn't, he could mismatch against anyone basically in most of the rotation inside. Either he was taking one of the centers out and could drive past and get to the line or get to the rim, or he was able to just go over anyone else they'd have guarding him. And so they made him look very good for a very long time, and that shouldn't have happened.
The other player that I always brought up in that category beyond Harrison Barnes was OG Anunoby. It always felt like he would score more than, and he's developed quite a bit now. Mm-hmm. And actually, if you look at his career averages against opponents, it does not look like he's done that well against the Pacers compared to other teams. But there was a time in Toronto where he was their like 4th option. Where I was like, man, he had 27 or 30 or whatever against the Pacers, and then like 12 the next night. And that just spoke to kind of the team they had at those moments. An interesting NBA trade. Kobe Buffkin is going to the Nets for some reason. The Nets have like 40 players, so that's interesting. OG Anunoby was in this. We did Andre Drummond, who was just punked Miles Turner. So I'm going to go to the star category now. Look, this doesn't count as a Pacers killer because he's killed a lot of teams. He's won an MVP award, but golly, does Joel Embiid belong on this list? Like there was a half decade where they could not stop him ever. It was like a guarantee that when it was Pacers, Sixers, Miles Turner's going to have 3 fouls in 5 minutes and Joel Embiid's going to go crazy. His 30.6 points a game against the Pacers is, I believe, his 4th most of any opponent. The Clippers are ahead. The Lakers are ahead. So, of course, the LA teams. And and the Suns. So, West teams that he doesn't play as much. Eastern Conference specifically, the Pacers are Joel Embiid's most feasting opponent. Miles Turner just could not contain him ever. And Turner did well against a lot of players. Drummond and Embiid were not some of them. So this isn't like a Pacers killer to the extent of some of the guys we already talked about, where it's just like, here comes a role player. It's going to inexplicably light him up. Like, it's very explainable why Joel Embiid beats you. But Joel Embiid beat the Pacers more than he beat any non-LA team over and over and over several times this season. We'll see if it ever happens again for him, but he could get to that level again. Surely I voted him very high in our Locked On Top 100, but he's another guy that I quickly was like, I want to check his career stats. And I have another Embiid stat for you, but did you include Embiid? Did you not go down the star path?
I did not have Embiid. I have one. I kind of have like one bigger star player that we'll probably get to here that's even more of a cop-out than Joel Embiid is, so no worries on including him. It is.
I have a guess.
And I think Embiid is kind of like the better Drummond, I guess, in this category to me, like for the same reasons you laid out. Like the Pacers just had no answer for him. And I'm like, I don't want to I'm not trying to denigrate Miles Turner as a defender because he did a lot of really important work as a team defender and as a rim protector for years. There is a certain type of center though that he was just, and he actually, I think, improved a lot against Embiid for the last few years. I think he had some really good games against him, using his hands differently and being more aware of what Embiid was trying to do. So credit to Miles for improving. early career Miles Turner against those man bench, he had no answer for Embiid.
No prayer.
Like it was just a complete disaster every time, pretty much.
He definitely got better, especially in the Haliburton era against Philly. And like, to be clear, Turner has other centers that he kicked their butt. Specifically, every time they play the Detroit Pistons and they go into drop coverage, he's like, great, I'm going to make 6 threes tonight and we're going to win. Right? Like that counts the same way. But yes, Joel Embiid kicked his butt. Here's the Joel Embiid stat, Jay. In NBA history, Joel Embiid's 30.6 points per game against the Pacers is, in fact, the highest of any player specifically against the Pacers. So while he is a star, I do think that qualifies as you kind of have to be on the Pacers killer list, right?
Yeah.
If you have the top number one number against the team.
It merits inclusion. Yes, I think it's safe to say.
I think it does as well. One more break here, everybody. We got to talk about FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer right now. If you're a new customer, you've been wanting to try FanDuel, now's the time because you can bet just $5. If that bet wins, you will get $300 in bonus bets that you can use across the app to do whatever you want. The many things that people love doing on FanDuel, the player props, jumping in during live action if you're watching a game, and hopping in with something there, building a same game parlay. There's so many ways to play. It makes games more exciting, whether you're just watching your favorite team or you're keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download FanDuel right now on the app or by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Who was your star?
LeBron James has eliminated the Pacers from the postseason in 5 seasons? Like 5 years, the Pacers have lost to LeBron. Almost none of them have been blowout series whatsoever. Yeah, they've got swept in like the closest sweep in NBA history, I think, at the time, maybe. Yeah.
And then they had the 7-game series where they outscored them.
Yes,
and
they had a positive point differential. Yeah, that was a tough one. And that included, I think, what I would consider the signature LeBron moment against the Pacers, which is the first of all, the missed goaltending call, and then the out of the sideline, out of bounds 3-pointer in that series, and that is crushing.
Same game, right?
Yes, back-to-back plays. He blocked Oladipo going to the rim, and then went down the floor and hit the game winner, and it kind of just capped it off there. And then he also even came back and knocked them out of the in-season tournament championship game as well with the Lakers. So he found a new way at the end of his career to find, an extra way to eliminate the Pacers from an elimination competition. And that's impressive. Like, that's tough to do. And I know it's LeBron. I know he does this to everyone. I know you can go through, every team has a game with LeBron going off against them for a crazy amount of time. But like the longevity and like the back-to-back stretch of years in the playoffs specifically, and just watching how, like, especially peak LeBron, and I'm not saying he didn't have advantages. Like, I think, again, the missed goaltending call stands out to me, but he just couldn't do anything with him. I was always impressed the Pacers managed to do anything with him at all. Like, I think they deserve a lot of credit defensively. Paul George, that young, like, guys in that era who actually kind of were decent matchups and helped keep those series close. Like, LeBron didn't exactly dominate the Pacers in the postseason, but his teams always won.
Twice.
Yes, exactly. But his team still always won. So you can't really. It's hard to leave LeBron off a list like this when it's that kind of like history together.
I pushed to the side the category of the Pacers are in the Bulls and Cavs division of, like, they've just played MJ and LeBron so much, and even in the playoffs with some of their best teams ever played against LeBron and MJ so much that it's kind of Embiid-esque, although they're obviously much better than him, where it's like they kill everybody, but specifically Pacers fans just have like a gripping, in some fans' cases, hatred of these players because of how often they had either marquee successes or marquee wins or whatever. For MJ, he and Embiid are the only two players ever whose scoring average is 30-plus points a game against the Pacers. It's exactly 30 for MJ, so Embiid is still first. LeBron is ninth at 26.8 points per game against the Pacers in 67 games. Yeah. It's just, those two are yes, fitting of what we're talking about today, and it's just like, oh, they really had to be in the Pacers division for like half plus of their career in LeBron's case and all of it for MJ's case, and that's just an insurmountable feat in a lot of cases.
when he went to the Lakers, I was like, all right, finally he's out of the conference. At least like the only way he's going to hurt us is if we make a conference finals. And then they brought that, and then that game happened how it happened, and I was like, well, all right, tip of the cap, I guess, LeBron here. So yeah, I had to have him on there, but it didn't feel great. He's really not the kind of player that I think fits this what we're talking about. Because I think right, Michael Jordan, sure, yes, put him on,
right,
but
right.
It's still, I think, just year after year after year having to go up against LeBron and having him just like pull out series wins from what seemed like an upstart Pacers team just kind of got it's etched in my mind forever. It was like it's basically half a decade to a decade of being tortured by him in the postseason. So.
Several Pacers teams that feel like they could have won a championship lost to them, right? Yep. 1998, 2013, right? Like legitimately great teams their opponent in the finals those years felt beatable in a way that, like the Spurs in 14, they lost the Heat. Like I bet the Spurs would beat the Pacers, right? In other years, you could say that too. In the years they lost to MJ, but like there are times that they lost to those guys in years that they could have otherwise. Like they were probably the second best team or potentially the second best team. Yep. That also stings. Do you have any other non-star players, or can I run through a list of just dudes I want to say today?
Yeah. I think I have one that's maybe borderline star to non-star. Okay. Where's Chris Middleton on that spectrum?
The playoffs specifically give him a huge boost. That's a good one. That's not who I thought you were going to say for borderline star, but 3-time All-Stars like around the fringe. But yeah, he killed them a lot. He had the one 40-plus game in 2024 in the postseason where he was playing on one leg and making every single shot. He was doing it all himself, basically. That was an incredible series performance with Middleton. I'm glad he's no longer on Milwaukee for that was reason. Funny. He played so well that Pacers fans are like, man, I hate the Bucks and I hate all those guys, except for Chris Middleton. He is very nice and he is awesome.
Yes, it truly is. Like I think I found that like this year too. It's like Donovan Mitchell may have been this year's version of that for me, where it's like just playing hard. He can't do anything with him. He's playing well. Like he seems like a good dude. And Middleton did. He was just a great competitor. Just watching him just kind of like will his team to not win the series, but to be in the series at all with their talent disparity that season was crazy. He kind of fits the OG archetype too, where they just didn't have the length to do anything with him on defense whatsoever. Like he could score at every level and they couldn't contest anything. So yeah, respect to him. That was who I had on that level.
That's a good one. I wondered if you were going to say Klay Thompson, who also had like insane games against lots of teams, but had the historic low dribble game against the Pacers.
Yeah. That's thanks. I would put. I didn't have him on there. I think, and he would maybe be more of a star to me than Middleton. But I could see. I would say
he did crazy things to more teams, whereas a lot of Middleton's best games were against the Pacers, or more memorable games for him. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good one. Any others for you? I have one more name before we just run through like here's who scored a lot against them before.
The only one I have left that I wanted to get to, Kevin Love, did a lot of damage against the Pacers for a long time. I was looking at his career page here. He's played more minutes against the Pacers than any other team except Toronto. He had some absolutely like massive games against them at different points. And there are times where he would and even when he was having down years or at the end of his career, like he would come out, he would somehow be out there, somehow open for every 3-point look and somehow making every single one, no matter what was happening. I think maybe, and so it's, he was always very frustrating to watch play against, and he was just a really good player for a really long time.
I have done my best to study history of times before I really covered the Pacers, but I'd be curious to hear from people who in the like pre-2015 era role players that you thought of, just like, gosh, that guy always is killing the Pacers. And my honorable mention thing here, by the way, is just the Charlotte Hornets basketball team, who the Pacers just cannot seem to beat, no matter how good or bad the Hornets are. They are a Pacers killer. Okay, here's a star player who's by far best career games, plural, have come against the Pacers. Paolo Banchero is forming quite the resume of just absolutely destroying the Pacers. He obviously had the 50-pointer last year. 28.2 points per game for him against the Pacers. I believe he's not even over 25 against anybody else. So he deserves a spot, so much so that he is fifth in NBA history in points per game against the Pacers. Paolo Banchero, he has had some significant, just like, oh my God, level games against them the past couple years. And like these Pacers Magic games are supposed to be the Magic's defense versus the Pacers offense. And instead it was like, oh, Paolo scored 50 and the Magic won again. So he is a star. So it doesn't really count, but he's ascending into like hey, they might need to figure out how to stop this guy kind of tier.
Yeah, he's terrifying. He's going to be really good for a long time. I think he's probably going to do that to a lot of teams too. But he has a special place in his heart for dominating against the Pacers so far too. So that's a great call.
Top 10 in points per game against the Pacers is Joel Embiid, Michael Jordan, Kevin Durant, Luka, Paolo, Karl Anthony Towns, Ant, Donovan Mitchell, LeBron, and AI. None of that was like, wow, that's so crazy. Yep. Here's one that was crazy. Former Pacer Trevelin Queen is 18th because in his one game he played against the Pacers last season, he had 25 points in that tank-tastic Pacers Magic game late in the season where both teams had already locked up their seed and had nothing to play for. No one even thinks of it as a Pacers killer moment because it did not matter who won the game. But Trevelin Queen, you are top 20 on the points per game against the Pacers list. Congratulations.
That's such a gross game to think about, Tony, to put that in my head. I'd block that out completely. That's a great call. He seemed to take a lot of pleasure in doing it to his former team as well, which I always do respect. But
So the top 10 is all like studs, legends, great scorers. The next 10 is Dominique Wilkins, Paul George, Jokic, John Williamson, Bird, Malone, Trae Young, Pete Maravich, James Harden, and Trevelin Queen's in the middle of that. And Kobe's the next guy. So the top 22 are just like all Hall of Famers, legendary players, great scorers, and then former Pacer himself, Trevelin Queen. I do not think of him as a Pacers killer, but I thought that was so funny. Giannis, by the way, one spot behind Kobe. That's the only guy of the top 25 that I was like, what the hell is he doing on here? How is this even possible? If you have no other names, Jay, I have wrapped up my notes and stats for the Pacers killer discussion.
That is all I have. We hit all of them.
That was good. That was fun. It made me reminisce on. I cannot believe you also got Terrence Ross. That's so funny.
That is solid.
So prepared to lead into that. He is, when I think of and hear the term Pacers killer, I think of Terrence Ross, and that is why he is the face of this to me. Listener, you, Blue Sky, Jay and I are both on there. Post at us and tell us who you think of. Twitter, same thing. Comment if you're watching on YouTube. Let us know. Jay, what is your handle on the Blue Sky where people can find you?
Yeah, it's just Jay Rigdon. So my name is JayRigdon bluesky.social. And that is where I'm at these days.
It's a fun place. We'll be back here tomorrow with Dave Searle talking about NBA rule changes. Boy, oh boy, do I have a long list of these. And we will tie it to the Pacers because Rick Carlisle is very good at using the rules to the Pacers' advantage. Thank you all so much for listening today. We'll see you very soon.